On this episode of the Rebel Health Tribe podcast, available at rebelhealthtribe.com, we welcome clinical physiologist Graeme Jones. Hey everybody, welcome to the Rebel Health Tribe podcast. I'm Joe Rignola with Mike Roseline as always.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going. We were just talking before we started about Mike's green screen that he's got set up in his house to make it look like he has stuff.
Yeah, it's actually a green screen, no surfboards present.
No, you're actually in a cave, right? Somewhere.
Yeah. Yes.
So you've got no stuff but the ability and the technology to do green screen, so that's cool.
Yes. I'm a tech wizard.
Awesome. Then you guys have matching hair. Hi, Graeme.
Hello.
We're joined by Graeme Jones today, who hails from Sweden. I think it's our first podcast guest from Sweden. So, hey, Graeme.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. For folks who don't know who you are, give a little background about what you do. And, we talked a little bit about how to find you online. That is not a website in a different language. So give folks a little bit of background about yourself.
Sure, yeah, I'm a clinical physiologist, originally from the UK, but now I live in Stockholm in Sweden. It's a little colder. It got to minus 15 on the weekend, which was a new one for me.
Wow.
But yeah, I guess had quite unique experience over the years working in medical environments, working in private medicine in London, and working with some of the world's top parasitologists and various other specialists, back surgeons, pain management specialists, and simply what I do is look at every patient as an individual and help to create strategic plans that don't involve medication, that involve behavioral and lifestyle and nutritional changes, based on detailed blood analysis, hormone analysis, to kind of get them to where they want to go.
Where's that function? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike.
Where's that functional, that's more of like a functional medicine type approach or functional nutrition, however you'd want to call it. I don't know how much experience you have here in the States, either teaching or being here or anything, but how well is that accepted by people there in general in the public? Like, is it something people look for? I know here our medical system is...
a joke?
Yeah, he said it, but it's becoming, people are becoming more open to looking for alternative methods and functional type methods. Are you finding that to be the case there, or were they just more open to it to begin with?
Yeah, I think Sweden. The medical system here. Look, it's very similar to the UK. If you've got a major problem and you're about to die, or very serious problem, it's going to deal with that as best that it can, and more than likely stop you from dying, which is great. But it's always nice. It's always nice. But of course, it has there's a major problem here with chronic health conditions, and I actually think Sweden is way behind the likes of the US and the UK with functional medicine. Functional medicine is kind of just dropping on the radar here, and I think people are looking for it, and they're looking for looking for those answers. But there's no one really here that does it, or it's quite good for me in a way, because people that have started doing it, they've not necessarily had the education and training and experience that I've had, and therefore it creates some nice unique selling points for myself, and people buy into it. They genuinely do, and it's what's missing here, and I think it is the future for healthcare.
Not that I want to stir the pot too much. Maybe I do, but you're in a country that has socialized medicine.
Yeah.
Do you think that's has no effect on sort of alternative treatments? Do you think it has a positive effect? Do you think maybe um, it's kind of are there sort of pros and cons to it?
I think there's pros and cons because obviously if you've got a chronic health problem that is causing you inconvenience, but it's not really it's obviously affecting your well-being, but you're not going to have a major problem because of it, then it makes it difficult to have any kind of real advanced or further testing done. And yeah, I've got friends who are doctors, and you can understand the issue. They've got to choose whether or not they're going to spend people's tax money on these detailed investigations. And so I think it's good because if you have a major health problem, you can get to see a doctor quickly. There's no problems with that. And on the whole, they're well educated from a true medical allopathic perspective. But on the downside as well is that people are so used to getting healthcare for free. It is a challenge when it's always interesting to say, well, I want you to do this test, and it's going to cost you whatever, some $150 type equivalent, and people are resistant to doing it because of course they're used to getting that for free.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's pros and cons because the system is so allopathic, or certainly to the average patient it's very allopathic. But I mean, I've written 3 or 4 page letters about investigations I've done with patients and what we found, and linking that in with research, and I've only found support and interest in what I'm doing. So it's because I guess because I've had such a lot of interaction with medical doctors and surgeons, etc., and written letters and had help with all that thing, largely due to John Boskell in London. I've working with his team for a large number of years. It means that I can interact with doctors quite easily and get points and opinion across, and actually, we started to work together with a few specialists on cases. So it's a very interesting situation, but it's great for me because what I'm essentially doing, I don't know anyone else in Sweden who perhaps works to that depth of blood testing and hormone testing and stool testing, and then has either knows what to do with it or has the right connections to be able to, if they don't know what to do with it, where to send those people to get it resolved.
That's interesting. Do you find the doctors are pretty open-minded to what you're doing?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I mean, the patients. I mean, the trouble is that you've got people. People are going. You see a lot of like doctor hating online by various people in chat forums and things like that. And I often just think it's they don't go about it the right way. I just kind of have a discussion with the doctor on their level and say, look, here's what I found. Here's the clinical evidence for what I'm suggesting, and here's the research. I'm not saying this is the only way, but it may be worth a try to get to the root cause of these issues. And when you explain that and my background and where I've worked, and it only seems to be so far. I'm sure at some point, of course, there's going to be some resistance, but I think Swedish Swedish society in general is pretty respectful, and even if they really didn't agree with what you were doing, it'd always be quite, quite a respectful conversation, as opposed to some doctors I've encountered in the UK. So I think as long as you can present a logical argument and you can back it up and demonstrate you have expertise and knowledge, then my experience so far is that they're absolutely blown away. I mean, by it and how you work. So I know, I know that. For example, I've shown letters, some of these letters to some doctor colleagues, and one took one and showed it to the pretty much the most talented, experienced doctor that this person knew, and he was like, it's fantastic. So there seems to be a general appreciation for it, whether they will, they're in a tough situation because of typically how the medical system has worked in the past, and they think there's a general a bit of some doctors are scared to refer out because they think that the medical institution is going to come down on them if because of that, if they're seen referring to more holistic practitioners. But then I've had discussions with people who are well into the depths of Karolinska, which is like the leading medical institution here, and only heard that they're trying to encourage more doctors to use use alternative therapists, etc., to help some of these more chronic conditions. So it's difficult, and it's of course Karolinska, which is the main hospital. There's politics and things going on there as well. But
it seems to be the most striking difference that you mentioned around here. I'm sure Mike's had the same experience. Anytime we would talk to a doctor about anything that we do, it's like blasphemous. We can't, and it's and more time.
I actually just had to send. I just sent an email to a client today with a list of blood components to ask for on a blood test from a new doctor she's seeing, and I said you can copy this and print it or paste it, but don't put my name on it, and don't tell her it came from a coach or a practitioner. Just say you did research and you found these components and this is what you'd like to see and blah blah blah, because I've had a doctor call me and threaten me before for sending clients with like a cheat sheet on like what lab components to ask for. So I think it's a little more hostile. I mean, but you can't lump them all together. I mean, you could have a completely different experience. But yeah, I've personally encountered some hostility, and I have some practitioner friends here who have been involved with lawsuit threats, and then they try to go after your certifications and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's classic difference I think between Europe and the States. I mean, I just think you just do your homework. You do your homework. You have your evidence. You have your theory, and that as fact. You're presenting the options forward, and ultimately it's the patient's decision what they want to do, and that's how I play it. And if the doctor disagrees, then I ask why, and if they've got some good, maybe sometimes they know something that I don't, or vice versa. So you're like, yeah, it makes sense. So yeah, it's really interesting, but I do find that actually on the whole, you get somewhere. I've suggested blood tests to a doctor, and this is what I would run based on this information and what we have this far, and the doctors ran them.
Mm-hmm. That's generally the experience you have.
Yeah. I think it is. It's about communicating that, and they seem to be a bit more. As long as you can, like I say, give rational thought and evidence, and really have done your homework. It's hard for them to really, they can say, look, I disagree in my opinion, but they can't, as long as you've got the evidence there, it's it's hard for them to really go, look, you're acting inappropriately, you're doing the wrong things,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to shut you down, because you're like, well, I've just written you a 4-page letter with 20, 25 scientific references. So if you know, it takes time to do that kind of thing, so I can't do it for everyone, but if I'm working with some particularly tough cases, then I'm more than happy to do it, and it's always good to get the doctor on side or the specialist, whoever that is, because you know, if things do go wrong or do start happening, and you know, you can always go to them for help, and they'll support it that way. Well, you know, you've caused the problem. I mean, it may not be my problem, but I'm going to see their client more than they will. So
Right.
keep them in the loop, tell them what's going on, ask for their opinion, ask if they have any concerns, come at it at their level, not from, you know, an underneath of, you know, I read this on Google type scenario. I mean, they're not gonna
Dr.
respect.
Google.
Dr. Gold, yeah,
Yeah.
they're not going to take that too seriously. I mean, more times than not here, I think we're met with, you know, any range of condescending attitude to downright combative. But so that's good. I mean, at least you're ahead of the game as far as that goes. But
Yeah.
talk about you grew up in the UK, I guess, and moved to Sweden. What was the reason for the move to Sweden?
It was I visited Sweden a lot, and actually really enjoyed it. Spent more and more time here, and you know, was doing the rat race in London, and kind of got a bit tired of that, and got a taste of Scandinavian living, and an opportunity came up to start working at the clinic, which I'm now based at, called Optimal Physique. So I started doing a bit of consulting there, and one thing led to another, and yeah, decided to make the move.
Excellent, excellent.
So that was, yeah.
Was that? But you were doing this type of work in the UK at first?
Yeah, so when I was probably, I'm trying to think how old I was, 24, 25, or after my degree, I went in to become a well-being specialist at one of the big, actually an American credit card company, MBNA, based at the European headquarters. So we did a few additional things than, say, a personal trainer would do. But then I went on to work for Nuffield Hospitals, did a lot of clinical training, became a clinical physiologist. So we were doing really advanced medical testing, you know, exercise ECGs, detailed blood work, heart rate variability testing, antioxidant testing, with a doctor and cardiologist, and you know, basically pulling together lifestyle plans based on medical results. So then after that, I went to work with John Boskill, on sort of in the Harley Street district, and it was a lot of spinal rehabilitation. So then things like diversed a little bit, and I applied kind of what I knew from behavior and lifestyle and nutritional aspects to how to help people recover from pain and surgery and various other musculoskeletal issues. How can we then apply that knowledge that I'd got from proactive health work and disease management to that side of things? So then did that for worked for John for many years, and then this opportunity came up to work over here. In that time, I started to work with Parasitology Center Inc. in Arizona in the US, and Emma Lane she's the head of our European side, so we distribute Dr. Amon's tests throughout Europe. So it's kind of gone, you know, it's kind of snowballed, I guess, from one thing to another, and yeah, just now bringing that all together in Sweden, but of course I work with other people.
Is that how you met Emma? Is through Parasitology Center?
No, I met Emma years ago on on a Czech course back when I was working at the hospital, and then ended up when I went to work with John. Emma rented a room in the same building and was obviously friends with John because both were on the Czech faculty at the time. So ended up became a client of Emma's, and then she ended up mentoring me, and largely Emma's been mentoring me for, I don't know, maybe the last six or seven years.
Good deal for you, man. I did
Horrible
one.
deal. Horrible deal. Terrible.
I did one weekend course with Emma here in San Diego. It must have been, I think, 2013 or 2014. I'm not sure, but her holistic approaches to the fully functional gut course. And for anyone listening that's like really into this stuff, you don't have to be a practitioner to take Emma's courses. And I think anyone who's like really into gut health themselves and wants to learn things to another level, kind of as their own health detective, that level one, that holistic approaches to fully functional gut is a really great course. But I learned a lot from Emma in 3 days. I can't imagine, years and years of mentorship. But for those who don't know, Emma will be on the podcast also, and she has a interview that's in, I think, module 9 in our Primal 90 program on gut health. And I think she's got a couple articles on the site too, so look up her stuff too. She's another one from the UK that's fantastic.
So I met Emma, and then we obviously we started, or rather she got the parasite testing, asked me to be a part of that, and then she started integrative health education and asked me to be a part of that as well. So we teach the fully functional gut 2, the next level. To that, together with another practitioner called Hannah Richards, and involved in various other courses for integrative health, which is in the UK.
Do you personally teach mostly in the UK courses? Do you ever come over here to teach anything?
It's all right now. It's all UK and Sweden. So I do do a day on stress. I do a day on blood work and how to, what the tests mean and what they are and how you can use them. And then I also do a weight, a day weight management course as well. Again, looking all of them, really looking at what clinical measures can you use to help to point you towards the right behavioral and lifestyle changes to bring about results.
So it seems like with most practitioners that we interview, there was some shift in their life. They were unhealthy. There's some catalyst that kind of got them to go into the health field. Sounds like with you, this is something that you've known that you wanted to do for a while. You said you went to school for this and early on.
Yeah. I don't know whether I kind of knew I wanted to. It's actually, I mean, even when I was at university, I mean, I just kind of, at that time, I wasn't, I was interested in the field, but, at school, it was more school, I wanted to play sport, and then it went on, a bit from there. In university, I wanted to play sport, and kind of some learning came along with it. It wasn't really after until I was probably about 22, 23, where it kind of started to kick in, and I was like, actually, I really enjoy and I liked this, this stuff, and then it went from there. So it was more of it was just more of a journey, really. It wasn't like I had a burning desire to do this when I was younger. It's just I enjoyed sport, and then that led into health, and then the hospital. The work that I did at the hospital led more to chronic conditions and coaching people, and that's when it really kicked in. But I'd say this or last year. I don't know. It's always, it fascinates me a bit, because it's kind of like I think I always think I can know a lot more. But probably last year I did more reading last year and covered a lot more information than I'd done in probably a few years, to be honest. It just kind of really hit me last year, and dealing with some complicated cases and some strange genetic conditions, and just sort of got into a lot of research and reading through it all, and so the next stage is a PhD. So I'm just constantly in talks with my supervisor about how that's going to look.
Great. What sports did you play?
I've done a few things actually, but it was mainly tennis at university. A lot of football or soccer, as you
we call it soccer.
guys taint it with. But yeah, a lot of football, a lot of tennis, and actually quite a lot of baseball.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of baseball played there.
In the UK, there's well, it's nothing compared to you guys, but there is, baseball's played in the UK. There's quite a few teams. I mean, our club in London, we had, I don't know, four maybe five adult teams and 5 kids teams in the club. But that's the biggest club in the UK. So yeah, I played this is nothing to really be proud of, but I played like National League standard baseball in the UK.
But it was a professional league though?
Sorry, what did you say, Joe?
It's a professional league though?
No, it's not. It's not professional.
Okay.
But I mean, pretty much all the everyone at that, most people at National League level have usually played to and at some kind of okay standard. It's typically I'd be playing with Americans, Canadians, Australians.
Better than we are.
What position did you play?
Outfield, usually centre field, typically. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Was that kind of an early goal for you then? You said you started out just wanting to play sports. Was that something that you wanted to take to a professional level?
Probably, wanted to be a professional footballer till I was about 13, 14, and then gave that up. Just got burnt out from playing so much. Then I went in, tried to go into motocross, and ended up doing BMX racing.
Oh, nice.
Did that for a couple of years, and then of course got to 16 and discovered that I could earn money and things like that. So then the sports kind of took a bit of a second stage to, here you go, you can earn some money and enjoy life a bit more in that way. So so kind of, but sports has always been a fairly big part of my life. It's actually been only the last maybe year or two since coming over to Sweden. I haven't really played like competitive sport as such. Just played a bit of football here, and that's about it.
Who's your team?
My football team.
Yeah.
Everton.
Everton?
Yeah.
They're blue, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. That's about as far as I go with English Premier League. I know colors mainly from we had the FIFA video game years ago. It's like the greatest. My friends who never played a minute of soccer in their lives love the video game, and so they all learned the teams. A lot of them have started watching now because of the game, and they would get a favorite team in the game, and then they would start watching it, and then they would get devastated when one of their players from whatever version of the game they had was not on that same team anymore. And when they started watching, they'd be like, no, he's supposed to be on Chelsea, and they would get all mad. But I know all the teams and the colors from the game, sadly. But
that's our education of football is
video games.
Yeah.
I played through high school. I played until I was 18.
Yeah.
Probably not nearly as well as he did, but I played. I bet our high school teams wouldn't really. If we played against 17 and 18-year-old kids in the UK, we'd get destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know these days. I played football in the I coached a bit of football while I was at university in the States and lived in Boston for a year or so. I don't know. There was some pretty good talent. Generally you guys could run. So we'd always often beat you for you'd kind of beat one of the guys for like skill and then run on, and then you'd catch you back up. You'd be like, what the hell? What are they feeding you Americans over here?
I think that's less dependent on skill. But I mean, it's different. I mean, little kids play with the ball everywhere. I mean, that's the sport, where here it's more probably, I would say, basketball and baseball in the parks. But now everybody's too scared to let their kids play out in parks, so I don't know if we're good at anything anymore. But
yeah, exactly. I think in another generation or two, it's just basically going to be, all video games. That's going to be.
We always played basketball.
Yeah.
In the parks. So interesting, man.
Is
Is there any crazy or strange fact or tidbit of information that not a lot of people know about you? That anything you'd want to share with us?
I've been That's a good. Then probably strange one. I did a lot of DJing probably about 10 years ago.
So did Joe.
Me too.
Yeah, that's probably a lot of people don't know that.
We'll start a Rebel Health Tribe club, and you guys can be the DJs.
We should do that.
I'll be the bouncer. That was my familiar position.
We'll serve shots of ginger.
Yes, wheatgrass and ginger shots and house music.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Their Techniques is starting to make the SL1200s again, so that's cool. I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's what I started on, and then went on to CDJs, and then it kind of, when I got the serious job at the hospital, the staying up till 4 a.m. didn't really.
No, that doesn't work.
No.
I mean, nobody goes to the clubs in the daytime. Now when we have a retreat, we know who's going to be responsible for the musical entertainment.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I bowed out of the DJ scene right after the CDs came into play there, and I was like, it just didn't feel right to me. It's not like vinyl.
Yeah,
Still doesn't.
Definitely different. Yeah. So I was on a chat with a friend yesterday, and he was saying he started DJing, and he bought it all in this kind of new setup, and I was like, you've been DJing for a few months, and he doesn't know how to beat match. The computer does it all for it.
Yeah, there's no art to it anymore.
Sad downfall of manual DJ.
Right.
I got one other question. I love to watch food and travel shows, and I never see Sweden on any of these shows. If someone goes to Sweden, Stockholm, say, I don't know if they have regional food or like different areas, but say Stockholm, what would be a good thing to look for locally, like food?
Actually, the standard of food in Sweden in general is amazing.
Wow.
It is. When I first started visiting Sweden or got to know it, and then you'd always hear Swedish people complain about the food abroad, and I was like, what are they complaining about? But actually, when you kind of live here, it is just every restaurant you go to, I mean, it's genuinely is. I mean, of course, you can go to places and find poor quality food, but the average restaurant, I've never had a bad meal here. It's all super fresh, nice food. It's well cooked. It's not particularly processed. It's just genuinely good quality, fresh meat and fish and veg.
Do they eat a lot of seafood?
Yeah, they do. They do. I mean, one of the traditions here is like pickled herring, but it's just that's the thing. Lunches, dinners are very much their meat and fish with veg. That's what people eat here, and I have to say, any of the restaurants in Stockholm they're great. They really are. But yeah, if you go into central Stockholm, a place called Sturdehof is good. It's kind of your classic, probably one of the oldest restaurants. Does great seafood as well as many other things.
Is it sort of a standard dish, like a cultural sort of dish for the area there?
Not necessarily a standard dish, but there's just, I mean, generally in Sweden, boiled potatoes, kind of new potatoes is kind of one of the main things, and on holidays it's always usually like pickled, some pickled fish and cold meats. So yeah, that's kind of the main things. They have some horrible. I actually like most of it, but they have this one fish that it just it stinks. It's one of the most vile thing you've ever smelt, and of course it's a bit of a delicacy. But yeah, I have to say the standard of food at restaurants and in the supermarket is genuinely it's high.
That's great.
It's very, very good.
So there's not a McDonald's on every corner like there is here in the States.
No, not quite. I mean, McDonald's is here, but they have their own kind of some other fast food chains. But it just doesn't, even the fast food, like Swedish fast food chains, doesn't. It's not like it's not quite like your McDonald's.
Not as bad.
People, no, I mean people here are you don't really see that many that are grossly overweight. People are genuinely eat a fairly good diet. People genuinely exercise and keep fit, and there's lots of benefits that the government puts in and companies put in for people to do that, and there's lots of free services, and you can use a lot of things that you pay a lot of tax here, but you can absolutely see that put back into society. I have to say it is pretty amazing.
It must be weird, so the money actually goes to things that are good for people instead of like bombs.
Yeah. So yeah.
Awesome. We should do food field trips and go visit all of our podcast guests and eat their food.
That sounds great.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, of course, education here is free, and things like childcare is free, and when parents have a child, I mean, they get a long time off. The dad gets at least 6 months off work.
6 months?
I mean, yeah, that's all paid for. So yeah,
we're just so behind here. It's insane.
Yeah. So, cool. But maybe if Bernie can get in.
Yep.
Then maybe it will come a little towards that, maybe.
Yeah. We're working on it.
We are trying. Yes.
Yeah. Joe and I are probably going to do a pure politics episode of the podcast, and then put like a big disclaimer for people who hate politics or whatever not to listen to it. But we're probably going to do an election episode where we vent a little bit.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have you as a cameo on that one as our example of what society can be like if there's not corrupt assholes in charge of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool. I don't have any more questions. Somebody wants to work with you, is interested in learning more about what you do. What would be the best way to contact you and find you and all of that?
If they don't speak Swedish, then the easiest thing would be to go to the it would be the parasitetesting.co.uk, and then they can find me on there, and it's Graeme, Graeme at parasitetesting.co.uk, and that's how people can find me.
Great, excellent. Graeme, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and let's do it again sometime. We'll talk more politics and food.
All right, thanks a lot, Graeme.
Thanks, guys. Great to speak to you.